All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're unpacking Approved Document O. Now, this is a huge deal because it's completely reshaping how we have to design new homes in England to fight the very real and, let's be honest, growing problem of overheating. So this is the million-dollar question every single architect and developer has to ask right at the start. Is your design at risk? Because trust me, if the answer is yes, it has massive implications for your design, your budget, and the whole compliance journey. And this document? This is the official rulebook. Overheating is no longer just a nice-to-have thing to consider. No, it is a mandatory, non-negotiable standard for keeping our new homes safe and livable, especially when things heat up. So here's the game plan for this explainer. We'll kick off with the core challenge, then look at the two different roads you can take to comply. We'll do a deep dive into the most common path, and then, and this is crucial, we'll cover the real-world roadblocks that can stop a project in its tracks. Finally, we'll wrap it all up.
Okay, first things first, let's really get to the heart of what Approved Document O, or ADO as we'll call it, is trying to do. What's its core mission?
It really boils down to two fundamental principles. One, stop the sun from baking the building in the summer. Simple, right? And two, make sure you have a really good way to get rid of any heat that does build up. But here's the absolute kicker, the core philosophy. You must do this with passive solutions first. Think smart window design, shading, natural airflow. Air conditioning is the absolute last resort, something you can only turn to if you can prove that nothing else will do the job. Okay, so you know the goal. Now, how do you actually prove you've met it? Well, ADO gives you a fork in the road. You have two very different ways to show you're compliant. And this choice is one of the first big decisions you're going to make on any new project. So on one side, you've got the simplified method. The best way to think of this is like a recipe book. It gives you a strict set of rules to follow. If you check all the boxes, you pass. Simple. On the other side, you have dynamic thermal modeling, DTM. This is all about performance. You use complex software to build a digital twin of your building and actually simulate how it behaves, proving it won't overheat. It's way more flexible, but yeah, it's also a lot more involved. Now, let's say you go for that recipe book, the simplified method. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. The rules you have to follow get determined by two key things. First, where is your building? Big urban areas like London and parts of Manchester are automatically high risk. Pretty much everywhere else is moderate risk. And second, does your home have cross ventilation? Basically, can you open windows on opposite sides to get a nice breeze flowing through? These two things will dictate everything. So let's dig into that first option, the simplified method, because honestly, this is the route most projects are going to try to take first. It all comes back to hitting those two big goals we talked about, limiting the heat that gets in and having a way to remove it. First up, limiting that solar gain. The main tool here is putting really strict limits on how much glass you can have. And just look at the difference here, it's pretty wild. For a home without cross-ventilation in a high-risk area like London, a south-facing wall can only have 11% of its floor area as glass. 11%! Now compare that to a north-facing wall in a moderate-risk area. You can have 18%. These numbers literally start to dictate what the building will look like. And for those high-risk spots, just having smaller windows isn't enough. Not even close. ADO says shading is absolutely mandatory. This means you have to design in things like external shutters, proper overhangs, or special high-performance glass with what's called a low G value to block even more of the sun's heat. So that's how you stop heat from getting in. What about getting it out? Well, the other side of that coin is providing a minimum free area for ventilation. Basically, how big of an opening can you make with your windows and doors? And as you can see, the requirements are, you guessed it, way tougher for those high-risk locations. Okay, now this is where things get really interesting, and frankly, where a lot of designs can fall apart. You could have a design that perfectly follows all the rules for glass and openings on paper, but if it doesn't actually work in the real world, it fails. Let's look at these critical constraints. Your whole strategy for cooling the building, which is probably open the windows, right? It has to be something a real person would actually do. That means you have to think about noise from the outside, about security, especially on the ground floor, about pollution, and about the physical safety of the openings themselves. All right, I want you to remember this number, 40 decibels. This is the absolute maximum average noise level allowed inside a bedroom at night while the windows are open for cooling. To give you some context, that's about as loud as a quiet library. If the street outside is any louder than that, your whole natural ventilation plan could be dead in the water.
And here it is. This is the huge tripwire. If a noise survey shows you can't open the bedroom windows at night without breaking that 40 decibel limit, you cannot count them as part of your cooling strategy. And just like that, the simplified method is completely off the table. You are now forced to go down that much more complex and often more expensive dynamic thermal modeling route. It's a game changer for so many urban projects. And then, of course, there's safety. If you're counting on big, low-level windows to give you that ventilation area and there's any kind of drop outside, you need to add guards. And AEDO is super specific. That guarding has to be at least 1.1 meters high, which can have a pretty major impact on how the building looks and feels from the inside. Whew, okay, let's bring this all home. When you take a step back, what is the big story with approved document O?
At the end of the day, getting this right is an incredibly sophisticated design puzzle. It's a constant balancing act. You're trying to give people beautiful, light-filled rooms with great views while at the same time fighting back against the sun. You're designing ventilation that's not just big enough on a spreadsheet, but is also safe, secure, quiet, and practical enough for people to actually use. So that was a very quick tour through the fundamentals of approved document O. If you want to dive deeper and really build up your knowledge, here's where we suggest you head next. For more videos diving deep into the technical requirements of building regulations, visit the Building Regulations Copilot YouTube channel. And for any building regulations related queries, head over to buildingregulationscopilot.com.